Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. May the peace and blessings of Allah be on the Holy Prophet Muhammad and his holy progeny. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This talk will inshallah focus on the events that occurred around the time of marriage of Fatima Zahra and how she was as a wife. So, when Fatima Zahra was 9 years old, she had grown into a beautiful, mature, young, intelligent woman, and she was ready for marriage. As you know, the ladies at that time would mature quickly, and so they would be ready for marriage at an earlier age. So being ready for marriage, there were many people that wanted to marry her, many notable companions, and two in particular, being Abu Bakr and Umar, who wanted to marry Fatima Zahra. So they kept coming to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and they kept asking for her hand in marriage. But both the Holy Prophet and Fatima Zahra always refused. And this was for one reason, that they were incompatible with her. And the second reason was that, as the Holy Prophet usually did, he would wait for the commands of Allah. So the day finally came, and Angel Jibreel came to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and said, Allah sends you his greetings, O Holy Prophet, and he has wedded Fatima Zahra to Ali ibn Abi Talib in the heavens, and the heavens are celebrating. So you too can wed Fatima Zahra to Ali on earth. So the command was there, and now the only thing the Holy Prophet was waiting for was for Imam Ali alayhi salam to come forward and propose. So eventually, after much insistence from Salma and other notable companions, the Holy Imam Ali, peace be upon him, comes and asks for the hand of marriage. So what was it that prevented him from coming before? Well, for one thing, he was shy to approach the Holy Prophet for the hand of marriage of Fatima Zahra, and the second reason was that the economic conditions at that time were difficult, and Imam Ali alayhi salam didn't have much worldly wealth. So even though the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, knew that Ali alayhi salam was the best match for Fatima Zahra, he still went and talked to her about it, and only after she accepted did the marriage take place. So we can learn many things from this incident. First of all, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, makes it obvious that the woman who is to marry is the one that should be making the choice for her spouse, even if the best match comes along. Secondly, Fatima Zahra shows us what type of a man a woman should choose as a spouse. She refused the one that had nothing but wealth. She refused the ones that had high sociable positions but didn't have good morals or the faith compatible to her. And she chose the one that was closest to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, that had all the virtues of Islam, good morals, good akhlaq, and spiritual wealth, even though he had little worldly wealth. Now, there are many criteria for choosing a good spouse, but Fatima Zahra shows us that the man with good faith and good morals is the one that's going to make a marriage work. Because, God forbid, if there are problems in a marriage, then a man who is faithful and has good morals will treat his wife okay. But if a man who isn't faithful and doesn't have good morals will not treat his wife in a good way. The third analysis is according to this hadith, that if Ali didn't exist, there would be no mate for Fatima. So this shows us how important it is that the couple are compatible with each other, and not only in faith but also personality. Because there's an example that goes back to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. During his time, there was a couple where both the man and the woman were pious, faithful, and they had good morals and so on. They got married, but unfortunately their marriage didn't work out. And why was that? Because they didn't get along. Their personality clashed. And so we see that personality is important in making sure that the marriage will work. So you can't talk about marriage and not talk about divorce. It's almost as if divorce is becoming a trend now. If the marriages don't end up in divorce, the marriage lifestyle is almost as if it's going to end up in divorce, but they're just holding on. And there is not much feeling or love in the marriage relationship. Now, of course, there are many reasons for divorces happening, and sometimes it's very important that divorce happens, for example, in the case of domestic abuse. But there are some cases where little things contribute to marriages that break up. And I'm just going to pick on one of these reasons, and it's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons that could lead to problems in the marriage and eventually, God forbid, divorce. So when a wife goes out to work, she has to be wary of a few things. A woman's ability to cope with pressure of the mind is less than that of a man, and this explains why a woman gets more tired and stressed easily. So what happens when she comes home after a tiring day of work and she's stressed? She takes out her annoyance at her husband and children. And because of this tiredness and stress, she is less able to care for her husband. And because we know that men need to be cared for, the man starts to go and look for someone else to care for him. Not only does she neglect herself, not only does she neglect her husband, she starts to neglect herself as well. And so what happens? The husband starts to lose interest in her. It's impossible that she goes out to work and she doesn't interact with men that are unlawful for her. Now, of course, a woman would probably guard her chastity and would guard her hijab, but the stress, the mental stress of guarding her hijab constantly, especially in the West, where you're constantly surrounded by things that would break your hijab, it's very difficult mentally for the woman to uphold this hijab, and it's so easy to then break the barrier of hijab. Another thing is that the feeling of manliness starts to increase in her, because now she's earning money, she starts to feel that she's becoming independent, and then she starts to make herself independent from her husband. And the last thing is that jobs for men decrease. It's funny, but it's true. I mean, imagine if all the women who are working in posts like post office or any office work or supermarkets were to suddenly leave their jobs. Imagine how many posts would open up for men, and these men could then earn for their families. This is not to say that women shouldn't work, and there are many benefits of women working, which we will talk about in another talk, inshallah. But there's just that one must look at one's own capacity in being able to do the household work and also going out into the society and dealing with those stresses.